A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Friday, January 23rd, 2015. And this is Live Talk. I'm Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube.
And tonight on Live Talk, we are going to talk about the nation's number one sport, soccer. And our focus is on the African Cup of Nations trophy. The tournament is actually currently underway in Equatorial Guinea.
If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number, 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back.
Of course, Live Talk goes out to Zimbabwe on our 909 medium wave frequency and on the 4930-5940 and 15455 kHz shortwave Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m.
On the internet, you can find us at www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voindebele.com.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the Africa Nations Cup.
The prestigious African Cup of Nations, or AFCON, the biggest soccer extravaganza on the continent, is currently underway in Equatorial Guinea. The 3-week soccer showcase, which kicked off last Saturday, 17th January, will run until 8th February 2015.
The biannual tournament started in 1957 and is older than the European Championship. This is the 30th edition, which will see 16 teams battle it out for 10 million. And the winners will get 1.5 million, and the losing finalists will get $1 million.
Yebo kambe Zulu kandaba lingalithola njani lapha likhona khona ngapho ke ngemakhaya thina ngapha siyaphila. Ye udaba esikhoka ngalo ke namhlanje sikhuluma ngomdlalo wenguqu. Siyakwazi ukuthi abaningi liyayithanda kakhulu sibili ibhola. Nxa sikhuluma ngebhola sikhuluma ngkhonokho okuthiwa iAFCON okwenzakala khona ngale Equatorial Guinea. Siyakwazi ukuthi ke kulamaqembu angu-16 angqikilana khona ngale kwele Guinea. Njalo siyakwazi ukuthi kulama groups athize u-A, lo B, lo C. Kodwa ke abaningi bebekhangelele ukuthi phela iJozi iSouth Africa izachaya sibilo kuzwayo kodwa ungani kuyayomela. Kuzobuya ke leZambia la ungazani kuya ngasese sibila kuhambi kahle. Kodwa ke lokho kulo kukhanyele ukuthi enxe bangaphonga ukuthi iphulukuhlu nje wenze okungcono. So ke siyabona ke Blessing ukuthi imidlalo leyi iqhubekela phambili kwezi kuyefika uFebruary. Iqase ke ngomgqibelo ophelileyo. So siyabona njalo ukuthi ibhola edlalwayo lingani nje hayi liyabukeka nje.
Okuka amawadiwa sezvo kutaurwa Gibbs nasitira kuti tingechitarisana nezvemakwikwi eAFCON ari kutambirwa iko ku Equatorial Guinea uko vanenge vakwanisa kutora mukombe weAfrican Nations Cup vachaona mari inoitayo 1.5 million vanenge vadyiwa mumafinals vachipiwa iwo 1 million mukombe uyu wose wakakosha iwo mari inosvika iyo $10 million asi kunyika dzekusouthern Africa kana kuti dzekuchamhembe kuAfrica zvinhu zvinenge zvisina kumira zvakanaka inqabanqoza kunzima
inqabanqoza sibe siyakwazi ukuthi Blessing bakhona kade bebona ngathi kungaba ngconywana kodwa kuya ngasifudlana mfowethu yebachaka sibili
zvinenge zvisina kumira zvakanaka kumatimu akaita sana Zambia neSouth Africa nyika dzakachitarisirwa nevamwe kuti dzinokwanisa kuti dzinge dzichisimudza mureza wenyika dzekuchamhembe kweAfrica. But just a quick update. Of course, Ghana shocked Algeria. Ghana beat Algeria just a few minutes ago, and it was 1-0. And Asamoah Gyan, who is a penchant for scoring goals on the international stage, continued this today as the Ghana star hit a last-ditch goal to shock Algeria and keep the Black Stars African Cup of Nations dream alive. Gibbs.
Yawambeke njengoba Blessing ngisitsho ke iGhana sizwile ke ukuthi namhlanje ichaya Algeria 1-0 khona ngale ke Equatorial Guinea. Kuzobuya ke igoli iSouth Africa leSenegal ngani lokho ezinqikilana nje. Sabona ukuthi kuyahamba njani. Siyakhumbula ke uthi Zambia yachaya iTunisia bayichaya 2-1 ngibonana kunjalo. Kuzokubuya iDRC Congo leCape Verde zaba yi-0-0. Sokubuya ke iGabon leCongo kukhanya ngake iCongo yawina 1-0. Equatorial Guinea neBurkina Faso zaba ke 0-0. Kanya ngazani zayenza idraw nje enhle khona phana. Imali leCameroon 1-1, Ivory Coast Guinea 1-1, Algeria and South Africa igoli bayichaya kubi mfowethu. Uyakhumbula bekuthi penalty. So sasithi kumbe bazayihlotha le penalty. Umuntu wachaya enye ibhola ngaze kubonakala. Ucina bedliwa. Awachaya ibha, yabona uchaya crossbar. So wathi chaya ibhola lana ngancane ukuthi uzayachaya nje. Liwele kuhle khona phakathi. Kodwa kwaphosa kwaba throw in. So kwaba nzima mfowethu. Kuzobuya futhi njalo ke iGhana leSenegal 2-1 khona phana. Kwana kunjalo futhi.
Of course, we are now being joined by our first guest, that is the Triangle coach, Kelvin Kayindu. Mr. Kayindu also coached Highlanders last year. And of course, everyone knows he is Zambian born. And Zambia is one of the few countries in Southern Africa that many are expecting to raise the flag for the region. But it has not been smooth sailing for Zambia so far. Mr. Kayindu, what is your take on the way Zambia has performed so far in this tournament?
I think they haven't done that bad looking at the group the way it is. Although I think we probably gave away a game against Tunisia in the last minute and we allowed them to walk away with 3 points. But I think we still have some mathematical chances looking at the other games that we played that it ended in a draw. So I think we have to win the last game for us to progress to the second round.
And what are the chances that Zambia will win that match? Of course, the Zambian coach, Ona Janza, was criticizing his team for selfish play after they lost to Tunisia. Did you see that selfishness? Of course, Zambia had many chances.
Yes, I think he has come up with a different philosophy and in football, I think any coach who has got a team that is able to create numerous chances, I think there will be few problems in terms of practicing. But like he alluded, I think there were a lot of selfishness and I think we had a lot of chances that were not utilized. At a magnitude and at a tournament like that, I think you need to utilize the chances that you have. And I think we were punished at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kayindu. Gibbs.
What is your advice? What is your advice to the Zambian squad, Mr. Kayindu?
Hope is still there. I think we need to focus on the last game that we need to play for us to progress to the next round. I think we should not give up. There's still a game that we need to play. If we can create chances against a team like Tunisia, I think we've got a good side. All we need is just to work on the chances that we are trying to convert them into goals.
Of course, for those of you who are just joining us tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about the Africa Nations Cup currently underway in Equatorial Guinea. And of course, Zambia and South Africa are representing the Southern African region, which for many years has been struggling to perform well at this tournament. Let's look at the past winners. Of course, Egypt is on top. It has won 7 tournaments. Ghana has 4, Nigeria 4, Cameroon has 3, Congo DR has 2, Tunisia 1, Sudan 1, Ivory Coast 1, Algeria 1, Morocco 1, Ethiopia 1, South Africa 1, Congo 1, and Zambia 1. Of course, Egypt is not at this year's tournament. Mr. Kayindu, does this come as a shock that the Pharaohs, as the Egyptians are known, are not at this showcase?
Not really. I think football has become quite dynamic, and if you see even Cameroon, I think Nigeria failed to qualify.
Yes.
Also coming in as a defending champions of the last tournament. I think football now, it is not about the repetition of something that has been done. It's the way the team is going to play, and we probably in this tournament we may see a lot of upsets, maybe even teams that we don't think can go as far as the semi-final, even to get to the final.
I think we are joined by our second guest, Blessing, and this is Mr. Muzwetu Hatebe, who is a sports commentator based in Bulawayo. Mr. Hatebe, good evening and welcome to the program.
It's a very good evening, and good evening to the listeners.
Thank you very much. And what's your take on the AFCON so far?
Well, I think it's been quite interesting. Obviously, these are the early stages, but I think we are seeing a growth in terms of African football, and it's a bit mixed because you get teams that have got numerous players that are playing in Europe being dominant, and we also have got teams that have got locals that are pushing hard, but you get the feeling that the missing cut is missing when it comes to such teams with most of the players being locally based. And also there's an influx as well of foreign coaches, and the style as well tends to change with that European influence coming into such teams. But I think it's been interesting. Who would have thought that Congo would lead Group A with 4 points? Who would have thought in Group B, Cape Verde will be on 2 points unbeaten, just 2 points behind Tunisia. Zambia a bit unfortunate there in that group. And who would have thought that Ghana would have got a late winner today to be second to Senegal, who drop and take on South Africa later on. So it's been quite interesting. And they look at Group D, who would have thought that all the 4 teams, Ivory Coast, Mali, Cameroon, and Guinea, will all be on a point each. So it's been quite interesting. It's an open Nations Cup, if one might put it that way.
Thank you so much. I think we have a third guest, Mr. Cassius J. Simana Mpofu. Mr. Mpofu, what is your take on this Africa Cup of Nations tournament so far?
Yeah, I think from the look of things, it looks like there is no small team anymore in Africa. Yeah, we are seeing a lot of surprises, a lot of commitment by those teams that we regarded as being small teams now. Like the teams like the Cape Verde, pretty well where it is, Gabon, they're doing well. So I think it's very, very tight, everything tight. It's unpredictable, this Nations Cup.
Yeah, masingatshalenge ngesintu singathi ubona njani khonapho ukuthi kube njani ku-AFCON khona manje.
Yeah, mna ku-AFCON ngibona ngathi kutokunzima obukhulu kakhulu ngoba masibheka sikhangela amathimu ayikho iteam esithenelisa ku-26 points. Iteam ene-best ine-4 points. Masikhala iteam enjengeTunisia ine-4 points, iCongo, Brazzaville ine-4 points. Ezinye lezi ngama-3-3, then kulama-draws ama-team khani Group D akula team esithe yawina ngama-draws wodwa. So kunzima kakhulu ngoba Group D kwaphana sikhane kule team ezinkulu ezinjengeCote d'Ivoire leCameroon ayikho esithe yawina phakathi kwazo i-drawile. So kulobunzima lapha akukhanya ngathi akukabonakala ukuthi izayo, kodwa la ma-team ebesithi ngama-team amancane hayi adlala kuhle kakhulu.
So I think what Mr. Mpofu is saying again here is that Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Guinea, and Mali, these teams have not been winning. They've been drawing, all along. So he says it shows that these so-called small teams are doing very well. So ke sesinomnumzana uSibusiso Ndlovu ecingweni baba Ndlovu kunjani?
Ngiyaphila kithi.
Yeah. Ifoni yakho ingazani ule radio khonapho?
Yeah, sengisehlisa
yeah. Yehlisa kancane.
Yazwakala manje.
Yes, uzwakala. Yeah, kakhulu.
Hayi nami ngithanda ukuphawu nami ngemidlalo imnandi imidlalo yakhona siyayibona nathi kodwa ke nami ukucabanga ngesifiso sami bengifisa ukuthi ngayigani yayithatha lelo kuze kodwa-ke ama-team so far esengiwabonile ukuthi adlala kahle. Imali inama-chances okuthi ithathe neGhana nje. iGhana ingayithatha ngoba ivele yiyo engiyilandela iyifavor.
So ubona njani iSouth Africa lezinye ke?
Hayi akulalutho. Akulalutho.
Kuhluphani kuSouth Africa khona.
Hayi Gibbs into khona ukuthi angithi South Africa masaba nje usanda uyithatha. Ayikakabi strong ngokuthi usayakha nje ilakho ukuthi akwazi ukuqualify nje angene lapho usayakha. Kuyafana nje neZimbabwe. Angithi ngizwe bethi iHighlanders neDynamos seziye zathatha abafana abancane. Yikho kuzokwenza ukuthi ama-team ayikithi ngapha eSouthern Africa akwazi kulokhu kuzela ngoba manje isquad idlalelwa ngabantu abanamagama njalo bengadlali ngendlela efanele. Njalo laba abantu base-South Africa bayazimisela kukho konke noma ngabe dlala phesheya kodwa mayibizwe elizweni lakhe akayenzi ukuthi mhlawumbe akhulume intando yakhe oyenza ngathi yena senguNkulunkulu. Bayadlalela nje ngenhliziyo yabo. That is why ubona ukuthi bayaphumelela ngale manje lapha. Kwesinye isikhathi umuntu engazibona sephesheya ngalo oyenemali mase bembiza umzwe ekhuluma ukuthanda kwakhe gcine bengasamthatha engasayi esquadini. So ngiyabona ukuthi eSouthern Africa makungasebenzisa isystem yona le ukuthi laba abafana abancane abayibona abakhulayo bethathwe nje bedlaliswe emaqembini abo then kuzokwakhiwa kahle ama-national team right.
So wona zale eZimbabwe kumele kwenziwe khona
anzwazi
kumele kwenziwe khona eZimbabweni.
Kade ngiyema ngiyalela uStudio 7 ngezwa kuthiwa iZimbabwe iDynamos leHighlanders balokhuzile bathetha abafana abancane ngoba laba bakhulu angathi bekuthiwa ngubani obeyidlalela omunye seyeZambia uyatrya khona ngalo omunye ubonakala edlalela ku2nd division. So abathatha abafana abancane bebadlalise lapho bazokhula bekwazi ukudlalela isquad ngoba manje vele lapha eSouthern Africa at least iZambia kwakungcono kodwa ke nakhona vele kayindawo.
Hayi siyawuza kakhulu Ndlovini ukholise phela impela vikendi.
Hayi akholisa hayi kule nsuku ngiyangena nje ehlelweni ngiyangena.
Hayi siyakuzwa kakhulu mfowethu siyabonga kakhulu phela uqhubeke kusenza njalo.
Ngiyabonga futhi.
Yes, according to Zibusiso Ndlovu, the games are good. He's enjoying everything, and he expects Ghana to win the trophy. And then he says Mali may also come up to tops. And then he says for South Africa there's a problem. He says these are youngsters that are playing for the first time. Some of them at that kind of stage. So which means at the end of the day they are being groomed for the big stage. So he says this should be done even in countries like Zimbabwe, where youngsters are needed. And these youngsters, according to him, they are very committed, in playing, rather than having these top players, who don't even mind about playing national soccer. So he says, good for these youngsters.
Indeed. And for those of you who are just joining us tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about the Africa Nations Cup. And our guests this evening, we have no doubt my favorite coach, Kelvin Kaindu. We also have soccer commentator Muziwetu Hadebe and Cassius Jays Simana Mpofu, also a soccer commentator. Let me come back to you, Mr. Kaindu. We have 16 teams at this tournament and only 3 coaches are from Africa. You have coaches from Israel, from Poland, from Belgium, you name it, Portuguese, all the countries. Good or bad?
I think it goes that way. One, I think they come with experience and doing development in terms of football, but also it has a disadvantage because I believe the local coaches know the local culture and know most of the local players. And if you have seen what most of the teams do, they prefer to bring in a foreign coach towards when the team has even progressed to get to the final and make changes maybe at the last minute. But in terms of development, I think it is good. Some of them it is because of the qualification that they have. Some of them it is because of the experience that they have. But I believe if we can integrate what we are getting from Europe and impart it also on the local coaches, it's definitely going to improve our football.
And Mr. Hadebe, 3 out of 16 coaches are from Africa.
Yeah, I think obviously in terms of the experience, they do bring the experience. But I think at the same time, it's very important to look at the track record of the foreign coaches who are coming into Africa to coach our teams. I think we've seen a trend where at times these European coaches move from one country to another without really achieving a lot. I'm not sure whether it's because of their ability or capability, or it's a question of us as Africans wanting quick results, and we quickly fire these coaches. My challenge is all the time when we get them, we're putting them to coach the national team. I believe they've got a bigger role to play in terms of football development, and we should have one day a deliberate arrangement whereby we draft them into our junior structures so that they impact that knowledge to raw players who will then grow up with a system and appreciate the basics, rather than for them to now come and try and push or deliver a seasoned player who is already at national level. Maybe it might work for countries who have got a number of players in Europe. It becomes easy to motivate them. But when you want to look at countries like Zimbabwe, for example, for us, I would appreciate if we drop them as grassroots and they do a program for our juniors, then come up with the players to the national team.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mpofu?
I think this issue of having some foreign coaches coaching our national team, I think it's not a bad idea, but I think we need to look at what are they achieving. These coaches, they come here, they coach different countries, different national teams, but most of them, they don't achieve anything. And they are moving from one country to the other. Like Moses was saying, we need to look at their track record. Some that don't have even anything that they've achieved. Maybe unless when during their playing days, they might have achieved something. But when it comes to coaching, no, we are seeing they're moving from one country to the other, but nothing, they achieve nothing. I think they need to start from the junior policy, from the junior level, like Moses is saying, the under 17, under 19, under 23. They mustn't allow the national association leaders to pick the players for them when it comes to senior national team. They must do it themselves. Go to the rear areas. They scout for good players from those players. I think we've got a lot of players, especially in Zimbabwe. We've got quite a lot of players. They need that talent needs to be groomed, and needs to be nurtured. Then I think we can have a good team in the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mpofu. Rega itinzwe yemwe mtereri wedu mkoma tafadzwa makadi.
Tiripo makadi.
Aiwa tiripo. Muri kuona sei makwikwi AFCON ku Victoria again?
Gitu kuona just. Asi nika ando kungidzira kuti kuita zviringani. Senegal chamboona iko zvinobhura rotamba kuti ndindiradi asi ndo timu yandichiri kureta ndoona kuti tiri kutamba zvirinani.
Saka muri funga ndo inosimudza mukombe.
Halo?
Ndati ndo yamuri kuti inosimudza mukombe.
Ndo andikufungidzira kuti ndo.
Ko imwe yamuri kufunga kuti chapinda mafinals neSenegal ndeipi? Mukoma tafadzwa?
Halo?
Taura itinzwa.
Halo?
Taura yenyu?
Ine timu Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast. Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru mukoma tafadzwa. Of course, Tafadzwa is saying he tips Senegal to lift the tournament, and Ivory Coast, he thinks, will also be in that final. Ivory Coast has very good players in African Footballer of the Year for the fourth time. Yaya Toure, who plies his trade in Britain playing for Manchester City. It has got very talented players, Gibbs.
And he may be leaving that club, right? Very soon. And now let's talk about the games tomorrow. We've got Ivory Coast versus Mali and Cameroon versus Guinea. I'll start with you, Mr. Kaindu. What are your predictions here? Ivory Coast versus Mali, Cameroon versus Guinea.
Yeah, in the tournament like this, it's very, very difficult to predict the outcome of the scoreline. And we have seen there have been some aspects, and we have been late goals that have come even at the end of the added time, and we've seen teams scoring. Of course, Ivory Coast is the best team, I think, on paper. But I think when it comes to competition like this, I think they have never done that. So we only hope that this time they can progress and they do something good.
And Mr. Adebe, what do you think? Are you there, Mr. Adebe?
Yes, I'm here, kids.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that there are 2 games tomorrow, Ivory Coast versus Mali and Cameroon versus Guinea. What are your predictions there, the outcome?
Quite interesting. Just to look at how these teams have fared. If you want to look at Cameroon and Guinea, Cameroon obviously a bit on the rebuilding exercise, Guinea having some experienced players, and Cameroon and Guinea drew 2-2 in 1988. This was in a group match, their only previous Nations Cup meeting between these 2 teams. So they haven't really met that much in terms of the Nations Cup, and they would want to recall from that 2-2 draw. So when you look at it, Cameroon are still trying new players. Guinea, on the other hand, always an unpredictable side. So it won't surprise me maybe if we had to see a draw in that particular match. But it's a game really that can go either way. And then on the other hand, when you want to look at the Ivory Coast, they are always a promising side that many people love to see them play and love to wish them to lift the Nations Cup, but somehow they always fail. And there's always been an argument as well that players like Yaya Toure, they do well at Man City, but when it comes to the Nations Cup, they struggle a bit, and they'll be without Giovinho, who we all know that was suspended after that red card. But Ivory Coast has a perfect Cup of Nations record against Mali, winning 3-1 in 1994 in a third-place playoff, 3-0 in 2008 in a group game, and 1-0 in a 2012 semi-final. Maybe judging by the history then, although they say the lesson we learn from history is that history is history. That's what Mali will be thinking about, but Ivory Coast are the favorites, judging by the history of the 2 teams.
Ngamafutshane baba Mpofu, ngamafutshane khona pho ngathini?
Yeah, mina ukubona kwembona ngathi i-Ivory Coast masikhangele game lembani bona i-Ivory Coast apha masingabheka iplayer one by one ekhaya i-Ivory Coast hlanganisa i-combination yabo bona bangaba le-upper hand. Then singagela i-Cameroon le-Guinea, hayi i-Cameroon kaseyiyaziyo i-Guinea ngayithatha 3 points khonapho ku-Cameroon.
Utsho ngani ukuthi i-Cameroon ngani ayisaliboni? Ubona njani?
Yeah, mbona ngathi Cameroon, i-association ye-Cameroon, i-football association abo ike yalibala ukuthi ibe nama-junior players. Bethu-ke ama-players ebesebe nawo asekhulile. So kathi ama-players abanawo ana-talent ebonakalayo, sebesingathi i-outstanding talent abanayo total. Ayikho.
Okay, siyakuzwa kakhulu ngayikhatshana khonapho. So what Mr. Mpofu was saying is, he tips Ivory Coast to beat Mali, and then Cameroon, he says they're not playing well. So he says they may be beaten by Guinea. Guinea is always surprising many teams.
Of course, it will be interesting to see who is going to be the top goal scorer at this tournament. There are a number of players that are doing well. We'll profile some of them. Of course, players like Wilfred Bony, who is going to be playing for Manchester City when he comes back from the Africa Nations Cup. But for our radio listeners, unfortunately, it ends here, but we are streaming live. So go to www.voazimbabwe.com and press on LiveTalk. Mr. Kaindu, Mr. Mpofu, and Mr. Adebe, please do stay on the line. We'll take a short break. This is Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kips Dube saying stay tuned to Zimbabwe.
For those of you who are just joining us, good evening, and this is Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the Africa Nations Cup currently underway in Equatorial Guinea. Of course, this is a $10 million tournament. The winners will get $1.5 million, and the losing finalists will get $1 million. But sadly, Zimbabwe is not represented because it did not qualify. And we have seen some good football. And today, the latest result being Ghana, of course, beating Algeria 1-0. That meant again Asamoah Gyan scoring in the dying minutes of that match, Gibbs.
Yeah, kulapho abasanda ukusichuma khona manje namhlanje sikhuluma nge-AFCON. I-AFCON ekhona ngale ke e-Equatorial Guinea. Sizwile ke namhlanje inews ezinhle sibile eZambia ukuthi Zambia ichayile phela eTunisia 1-0 yasithola ke ungazani yasikhukhumeza. Yes, siyawazi ukuthi ke igoli South Africa kungani kayenzi kuhle kodwa bakhona lokho becabanga ukuthi enxa ingazama. Yes, sibekwazi njalo ukuthi kusasa ku group D kule Ivory Coast bese kusuka le Mali kuzobuya iCameroon ibe siba le Guinea. If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number 001 202 619 2077. Ye kulaba ufuna usichuma khona manje nasi inombolo ufone kanye siyakufonela khona ngapho 001 202 619 2077. Yes,
of course, we were talking about who is likely to be the top goal scorer in this tournament. There are a number of good players, but most of them are plying their trade in Europe. You have players like Vincent Abubakar of Cameroon. There is Wilfred Bony, who plays for Ivory Coast in Manchester City. There is Gavino who plays for Ivory Coast. Asamoah Gyan, who plays for Ghana. Islam Slimani, Algeria. Yaya Toure, not technically a striker, but he is known for scoring goals at Manchester City, and he's playing for Ivory Coast. There is Papi Cisse, who plays for Senegal. These are some of the players that many expect to lift the scoring gong. Let's go to Mr. Kaindu. Mr. Kaindu, are you impressed by the strikers at this tournament from what you've been watching so far?
Yes, I think we have seen a number of good points and individual play that the strikers have shown. I think we've seen is almost an average of one goal every game. That means I think in terms of attacking all the teams that have come up with the game line they are going to attack. I think there have been few games that have now come out goals. I think the strikers have done quite well. I think we are expecting a number of goals to be scored in this tournament.
Mr. Adebe, some were complaining that the tournament is boring because they want to see more goals.
Especially when you expect top strikers to be scoring goals. I think following Ghana's 1-0 victory, we've seen trying to count because I think we've seen 24 goals so far, which I think is not bad. It's only that we've been getting too many tight games and no open scores. I think the really biggest scoreline in terms of the difference was the 3-1 victory by Algeria over South Africa. The others we've been having just a single goal difference or tight ones. So they haven't been really coming often the goals. And we hope that as the tournament goes on, we'll be seeing more goals. But I'm sure that also shows great improvement that has been there in terms of the African football, in terms of the African teams. And at the same time, we've always had the problem with strikers. And it's now an open game in which even a talented midfielder can also become a top goal scorer. So we've not really seen the players shining, and I think we haven't seen a player scoring more than one goal in this tournament so far. But we wait to see what will happen with, I think, about 24 goals scored so far ahead of the match that is on between South Africa and Senegal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adebe Gibbs.
Yeah, bawampofu abantu bakhuluma lapho ukuthi kungani imidlalo leyi phela ayibahlasimulisa umzimba ngenxa yokuthi phela abantu abahlohli kangako wena ungathini khona?
Yeah, ngiyavumelana nabo amakhozi kasiwathole kodwa kwesinye isikhathi kungaba ama-defenders ama-team la akhanya adlala kuhle lama-goalkeeper ngoba sikhali igame South Africa idlale ne-Algeria waseva kakhulu keeper lona asebenza kakhulu so kuthetha ukuthi i-defense ama-coordinator ngabe sebenza kakhulu ama-defenders i-defense yabo inhle so kuma-strikers kuyashota sadla esasole kakhulu kubakhulelwa ama-defenders nama-goalkeepers basebenza kanzima emuva.
Siyawuzwa kakhulu baba. So ubambe khona lapho ngayikatshana. So I think there are some few messages that are coming in here on Facebook, and one is from Posani Rodwell Ziadima, who says, today I don't want to discuss a lot about soccer because my team South Africa let me down. Then I've got Mokwena Daniels, who writes, Group C is it is very tight, but I see Algeria and Senegal, if they can beat us, meaning South Africa, going through. So I think those are the few messages that we have. And we also have one guy from Nigeria, Wilson Abid. He says, can you call me now? I want to talk. We are going to call him.
We are going to
yes.
Call him. For those of you who are just joining us tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about the Africa Nations Cup currently underway in Equatorial Guinea. And of course, these are some of the group standings. Group A, it's Congo, which is on top. Then there's Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and Burkina Faso. Group B, you have Tunisia, Cape Verde, DR Congo, and Zambia. And Group C, there is Algeria, Senegal, Ghana, and South Africa. This is dubbed the Group of Death. And Group D, there is Guinea, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, and Mali. I think this is also a very, very tough group. Mali and Cameroon, Ivory Coast in one group, and even Guinea, there are no pushovers. Those are very good sides. Gati yende kunemtereri wedu mwe Gibbs kupotswana. Mkoma Bernard Magadi. Tipeo pfungwa dzenyu muri kuona here mitambo iyi?
Ndiyemboona zvangu asi ini ndodanya kutaura kuti neabsence yedu mitambo ndikuiona ine madzidza imwe haina dzidza asi inoona zvakanaka kuiona utokurudzira madzodzi muafrica asi ini ndoanida miyangu itaura zvikuru nezvezimbabwe kusavapo kwayo pamutambo iyi asi ndinoona kuti zimbabwe yainga nemukana wekuti kana ivapo yaita something
asi semaonero ichi chinopa kuti zimbabwe isakwanisewo kuenda kumitambo yakadai.
Chinongokonzeresa ndechekuti bhora redu akafa kuclub level blessings club level hatina zvimwe vakafanira South Africa kana kuti gonofanira kuti South Africa anongotora maplayers mamwe achibva division 2 daivo zimbabwe yaisa mutemo wekuti player asati aenda kuSouth Africa inofanira kunge yatamba yangu kuti inoenda ine 4 years yepremier league yezimbabwe zvoenda hatai kuSouth Africa zvezviri nani kuti namaplayers inoona hatina zvifanira kuti tongofidza maplayers mamwe anenge vanenge vachitotamba zvimwe timu zvitokotoko South Africa just because of money. So hatina maplayers tasangoita vana marenard fadistapa takasa kuti hatine very strong side but maplayers edu mazhinji aitamba local league. Saka isusu zvatinofanira kuita ndezvokuti coach wedu national team like zvaita Fabric zviya ndinoona kuti Fabric anga munhu wekwanisa kutora maplayers aikwana kuita 5 Islanders team 1 kuti tongoti 4 kuDynamos then kuno tingobva vamwe 1 ndizvo zvaita tione combination asi zvino ufanira kuti management yedu dzebhora we cannot administer bhora hatina bhora yango Dynamos yakafa Islanders yakafa Cape yakafa asi nezva zvangoita kuti zvinoitika kuDynamos zvinozoitika kuIslanders nezvaitika futi kuCape zvinge zvakadaro bese nonga like this coming season yango national team chana chikofo magudi nokuti totarisa kuti unongoyatsa kuona kuti zvavari kuvaka kuDynamos neIslanders neCape zvikuti zviri meaningful saka ndozvanotarisa kuti kati kangoondawo kumaafrica cup of nations timu dzedu dzichanga kuti Islanders iri right Dynamos iri right Cape iri right blessing ine hangu ndive Dimbara ndizva Dimbara haina zvaingaitawo yoga inofanira kuti iwane timu dzakatasana bhose nana Tete kuti zvifambe saka ndizvo zvanongokudza kuti dai bhora redu kuti ratadza kupawo kuclub level ramira club level titesa zvatiri kuona izvo nemigodi tinosora na Tunisia wana Ghana yasadhana very good. It's a very good sign. But nyango zizima utokwasa uzita imagine mathi papana but we did something. Athi zapapa atengedona this and that. My players edu nanongomanyira mari they charge too much. But this my club arinanya tinda ku club zitoko vana how mine zile club division was what team zora le press ba ora le division one yakari. So I are not atiti kuenda kumsoro zatoka kumunyuzi kuti ukwirira kuti bhora tiri
aiwa tinotenda zvikuru mukoma Bernard nekupinda muchirongwa chedu.
Aiwa ndinofara machinda nebasa munoni izveni dzakakosha zvatingati kwatogara kuno kubotswana toto zvazvese tinoda kwenyu machinda asi tiri kuno kubotswana toto zvai zimbabwe yese inoda kwenyu.
Aiwa tinotenda ndimunotipasa manyemwe.
Onimorisa good.
Aiwa tinotenda zvikuru mukoma Bernard.
Alright.
Tinotenda. Of course, we are not usually ones to blow the vuvuzelas for ourselves. But he's saying he enjoys our coverage. It's balanced. And he's in Botswana, but he says we keep him up to date. Thank you so much, Bernard. But his major concern is Zimbabwe. He's saying is not happy that Zimbabwe did not qualify. And he is saying that maybe what is needed is to strengthen the domestic league, which he says is lagging behind. And he's saying that our players are quick to rush to go and play in South Africa, even for very small clubs, simply because they want money.
Mr. Kaindu, what do you think about the caliber of players that are in the Zimbabwe League?
I think one is not about rushing to South Africa and money. And how but
can you move? Mr. Kaindu, can you move a little bit? We can't hear you now. Can you move just a little bit? Your phone is cutting off.
All right.
Now, okay, yeah, go on. Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, I'm saying, I think, yes, we have seen most of the players, I think, starting to South Africa because of the incentives which are there. But what I can just say is the Zambian and the Zimbabwean league are almost the same, but most of the time Zambia has been able to find themselves at the AFCON, and I think Zimbabwe have struggled, I think, to get to the AFCON. And if you look at the players, they're almost the same.
Mr. Hadebe? Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Stay on the line there. Mr. Hadebe?
Well, my feeling is that we have got natural talent, and the natural talent needs to be nurtured. I think we are lacking maybe the resources or maybe the will to have that zeal of nurturing our players. And I think that comes from our football structures, which we continue to say they need a serious revisit. And in this serious revisit, it's not really about an individual bringing in about this success. I'm citing here that we continue referring to former Warriors coach, the late Reinhard Fabish, in as much as he contributed a lot to Zimbabwean football. I think it also goes down to the fact that we need to have a system, and the system has got to have targets. It's got to have projections to say in the next 5-10 years, what do we want to achieve? So that if Fabish goes as he did go, we will continue with that momentum. But if the project belongs to an individual, we will always have a problem. So if we are to go back to the drawing board, that is, if we have the drawing board, it will be important for us to actually have a system that will carry us for a number of years. I think we are seeing that happening with our neighbors, Zambia. I was very impressed with their under-20 team that they brought here for the youth games in Bulawayo. And if they can keep that momentum, I think Zambia will be a threat in the next few years. Quite interesting that one of the players who played at those youth games is also part of the Zambian team as we speak, although he is not featured. But he is already learning the system that they would want to adopt, and that's a good thing. So it goes back to us having a system, a projection, what we want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years. As we talk right now, are we ready for the next Nations Cup? One would think otherwise. So it's important for us to have that system in place.
Yeah, Baba Mpofu, kalela kona baba. Yeah, Baba Mpofu kona. Yeah, posela kona.
Khanya ngathi ibhola lasekhaya alihanjiswa ngendlela efanele ngoba khona manje i-team ngova weshe uqualify ku-Nations Cup yachipha ithe kuthi akuzange kube neplan ebonakalayo ukuthi sesichithile i-team sesiqala lapha khona manje masingakhangela sithi ucoach nxa i-team ngathi waseyihlanganisa uzathatha ngubani ucoach asikabi nayo ubonakala ukuthi nangu-coach lesingathini yachitha i-team so khona kwenza ama-preparations angahambi kahle mase i-tournament seyifikile yalifikile ngaleso sikhathi sokuthi izinto zokugijinywa akula plan khona sokugidinga sokudojwa lo sesebenza ethi nxa iqeda usebenze phela coach ofuna coach lama-players angikhona ngisala kungelanto ebonakalayo isikhathi sokufunekala kube le-system izifa kumele ifunde ukusebenza nge-system babe nama-plan babe ne-goal target ababona ukuthi maybe in 10 years time sikuba sesinesinye national team enga-challenge ku-World Cup akukho lokhuyana babheke eduzane khonapho kuphelele khonapho
kwehlulani Mpofu khonapho ukuthi kube khona
okunye ngibona ngathi ngama-resources njengoba uhade ekhulumile ama-resources kasinawo into azisimelayo imidlalo yonke singasakhulumi ngebhola phela imidlalo singazi i-cricket i-rugby ama-national team ethu kadlali kahle ngendawo yokuthi abalamala kuma-sponsorship kodwa ala ama-sponsors otayo khona kumele abone ukuthi abantu abakhokhela imidlalo leyo abafuna ukuyisponsor ngabantu abanjani abantu abalambileyo namba abantu abafuna ukusebenzela ibhola so makuya kusiza umuntu abe ebhekane nokuthi ebheke indawo yesishini sakhe ababuyi nemali bayathatha imali bayabopha so kumele izifa iqale ikline qeda ukuthi izifa sibe le-proper development program ekhona bayeqala ku-youth level bakhambe baye emakhaya bayedinga amaplani italent ikhona kuphela ayidingwa i-talent ihambe iyedinga basebenzela nama-coaches unala asebenza kuma-lower divisions babanika ama-players bababone kona njengama-senior national team coaches abakhona ama-under 17 under 19 babona ukuthi iplayer leyo bangayenza kanjani fane ngathi khona ama-resources akhona ngathi ba ne-academy straight away ebhola vele ibhola lezimbabwe efuna ukuthi kube ne-academy ngaphandle kwalokho angeke lafa lapho kumele siyele emuva sibheke into ezasenza ngama-team anje abo ngikhuluma ngeklabhu ye-asset mimosa i-Ivory Coast ine-academy yayo kwama-players amaningi aphuma laphana i-Ivory Coast yaba yilizwe elisabekayo ku-football e-Africa la into kumele siqale khona pha
Mpofu baba sibambe khona ucingo ngakatshana. So according to Mr. Mpofu, if Zimbabwe wants to participate at this kind of stage, the ZIFA should come on to the plan, development plan that is very open, and maybe the challenge could be some resources. Zimbabwe may be having very serious challenges there. And he says there's need to have an academy, for youths, to have these youngsters trained together, and then from there you develop them. After developing them, then you can put them out there to play. So he says there's nothing. Even right now, the Warriors were disbanded, but there's no coach still. He says he doesn't see where the country is going.
Yeah, and I think we can now go to Equatorial Guinea, who we have a VOA correspondent there, Shaku, in Equatorial Guinea. Shaku, how are you? Shaku, can you hear me? It appears we have a bad connection, but we'll try to talk to our correspondent there. And of course, for those of you who are just joining us tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about the Africa Cup of Nations tournament currently underway in Equatorial Guinea. And Gibbs, Equatorial Guinea happens to be the only Spanish-speaking African country. It has a population of about 600,000 people, fairly very small. it had to host this tournament after Morocco asked for a postponement, arguing that because of the Ebola virus, the tournament could not be played in January. So it was stripped of that chance to host the tournament. That's why it ended up going to Equatorial Guinea. Of course, Equatorial Guinea is splashed with oil, and it was easy for Equatorial Guinea to be able to organize this tournament at such a short notice.
Yeah, so talking about, some of those issues, in terms of language,
Yeah.
referees speak different languages with players.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me yesterday, how do they communicate, I just said, maybe it's because of the whistling.
The language of the
The
game
language of the
is
game.
the same.
That's it. So,
You know the rules.
you know the rules. Mr. Kaindu, how difficult is it for referees to actually communicate with players, at this stage of the tournament?
Yeah, I think it's not very difficult because the language of football is the same. The rules are the same whether in English or in French. And I think the organizers will try to speak referees that can possibly speak a bit of English and a bit of French. But if the two teams are both English speaking, I think they would rather prefer an English referee to officiate the match. But I think the communication is very simple because the rules are the same.
And coincidentally, Mr. Hadebe, there's no woman referee there, right? Is there something wrong? Mr. Hadebe, are you there?
Nothing wrong with that, but I think it's something that we need to verify. I think there was a time when they were restricting them to women's football. We haven't seen them coming much in terms of the men's football when it comes to the Nations Cup. Or just like now, they are specializing. If you want to be the center man, that is the referee, you concentrate on that. If you want to be the assistant referee, what we used to call the linesman, you concentrate on that. I think it's something that we need to clarify on that one.
Okay, thank you very much, and stay on the line.
But interestingly, is it Cholocho FC is going to have a woman as its assistant coach, right? That is Queen G15.
Yeah, maybe KK losing out there. Maybe he could have appointed Queen G15 as his assistant. But quite an interesting development. By the way, Queen G15 was also in charge of the young Mighty Warriors under 20 who were taking part at the recently ended youth games last year here in Bulawayo, and they managed to pick silver. They're not the best of the performances, but we certainly wish her well in her new role at Cholocho FC as we assist leave the stretcher.
Interesting times indeed. I think we will try again to go to Equatorial Guinea, where VOA correspondent Shaku is. Shaku, good evening. Shaku, can you hear me? Sadly, we have a bad connection, but we'll just keep trying. We just wanted an update on what is happening there in Equatorial Guinea. But of course, the phones are a bit problematic. Now, coming to you, Mr. Kaindu, we have talked about the coaches that are at this tournament, the strikers, but your take on the goalkeepers, they've been very impressive, right?
Yes, and I think we have made quite a number of good saves, and I think we have disadvantaged the tournament in terms of the saves that have made. I think we have seen more goals in the games that have been played, but I think they have been quite instrumental. They have made brilliant saves, and I think they're making the tournament exciting. But we need to see more goals, I think, as the games progress now.
And would you say, there's always a problem, there's this friction, Mr. Kaindu, between local players and those who ply their trade in Europe or in other international leagues. And people sometimes complain that these players from Europe, when they come for this tournament, they don't perform very well. their performance is rather subdued. What is your take on those players, the European-based players who are at this tournament? Would you say they are performing to a level that you expect?
Not really. I think one should understand that the playing platform is different from Europe and Africa. In Africa, I think there's a lot of contact, and if you see some players, you watch them even a week before they came to AFCON. The difference is that you watch them on AFCON, you're completely different players. Yes, they will come and try to be different from the locals. But I think back home in Europe, their incentives are quite higher than what they are paid locally. And sometimes most of the players, they prefer to just appear at the tournament, maybe the team goes out and they trust back to Europe, where you go and see them the following week and you see them excelling. And yet at the these are the guys that have been struggling. But we want to see a tournament where our African stars, those that are trading themselves in Europe, we want to see them shine also in AFCON.
Thank you so much, Gibbs.
Ye baba Mpofu ubona ngazani ke uzaphuma ni khona ye ku AFCON ezanqoba yipi yathathi inkomenje yes vale khona lapho
lapha kukhanya kunzima ngibona ngathi isimo njenge iCote d'Ivoire ingaba ngenye yakhona isenegal ibe ngenye yakhona izithime ezikhangelelwe kakhulu ukuthi zingaba ngalisa abantu ngathi unyazi phathi kwazi ngayithatha ikhaya
so utsho ngaliphi ba
ya khona manje khona ngikha ngibheka ibhora lesenegal abafana bona ngathi idlala kuhle kakhulu ukuthi angendlela edlala ngayo iyathembisa ayikabona ngali kakhulu kodwa ke ngibona ngathi khangela ku-group yayo ayidlala ibhora elingcono then iCote d'Ivoire ngikhaya nama-players enawo ama-players i-combination engahlangana baphike kuhle bonke sibili kube ukuthi seyiyi-team eyi-one what if bakhakathi basezama-team ayi-two phakathi manje ngaba yi-team eyi-one akula team engamelana labo labana kule mtshina laphana ku-Cote d'Ivoire ikakhulu phakathi ayisisini abantu abanjengabo eyadore ku-strike coach Kairubon noma fana Manchester khona manje i-team enhle kakhulu la ingahlanganiswa ngaphuma uright phakathi kwabona pha
yes akuza kakhulu ngayikatshana what is saying is that it tips Cote d'Ivoire or Senegal to lift the trophy.
And Mr. Hadebe?
Well, I think I'll agree. Senegal have looked very good, but let's wait and see how they perform today against South Africa, where it's still a goalless currently. But Tunisia look very forceful, as Algeria obviously they will be disappointed. But I'll still wish our neighbors, Zambia and South Africa, well, that they at least progress to the next stage, although it's looking very difficult in their group B and C there.
Lastly, Mr. Kaindu, of course, earlier on you said it's difficult to predict. It's too early. But from what you are seeing so far, who has a better chance?
Hello?
Yes, I was saying that from the matches that we have seen so far, which team has impressed you?
I think to me, Congo has been playing some good football. But I'm a Zambian and I still believe Zambia has still got a chance to go far. And I think I'm still putting my money on South Africa. I still have hope that it's probably one of the two teams that are presenting the Southern Africa will probably do us proud and get as far as the final.
So by Congo, is it Congo Brazzaville or Congo DRC? Which one?
Congo DRC.
Congo DRC, yeah, those are closer, right? Even Brazzaville, I think they are indeed playing very well. But gentlemen, unfortunately, we cannot go into extra time. We have to end it here. We don't even have injury time.
No.
So thank you so much, Mr. Cassius Jays, Simana Mpofu, Mr. Muzwetu Hadebe, and Triangle coach Kelvin Kaindu. And for our listeners, those who managed to reach us, thank you so much. And those who wrote to us on Facebook, our team behind the scenes, our engineers and producers. And he is hoping that you have a blessed weekend. And signing off This is yours truly, Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube saying have a lovely weekend.